So coming back alongside Maonobu for the current Guda Guda event, we also have Okita Alter, and she also is going to be getting a buff during her rerun, which actually goes a pretty long way in setting her up for her next buff, which I'll also go ahead and talk about in today's video as well, just so you guys can know what she's going to get in the future. And what I mean by set her up is that, like, once she gets this buff, alongside the next buff she gets, she becomes a pretty powerful AoE alter ego servant. Because right now, or at least before she got this first buff, she was looking a little bit mid. Like, she wasn't actually bad, but she wasn't actually really good either. You could get some value out of her, but there was definitely a lot of other servants that did her job better. But now she's kind of shaping into her own, right? She's kind of becoming her own servant, which I like to see, because a little bit of, you know, just behind the scenes bias. I really do like Okita Alter a lot. I think she's super sick. Her whole role as kind of like the final trump card of the counterforce is super cool. And the implication that, like, she didn't come to any of the other singularities or anything because while they were serious, they were not things that determined and needed her power. It is just, oh my god, it's so cool, right? It's so giga cool, so chatty. But we're going to talk about her in today's video, and we're going to go ahead and start off with her hits. Now, if you actually look at Okita Alter's hits, you would think she's going to be going towards this hybrid style of quick and buster gameplay, and you'd be like half correct with that because she has really OP quick cards, 5 hits on both of them, while she already has really high 0.77% NP gain and 10.2% star gen, which is also pretty decent for like a non-assassin star gen-y servant. 3 hits on the 1 arts card is also really strong because you're going to be genning a lot of stars, or in theory you should be genning a lot of stars with Okita Alter, and so you can just crit on the 1 arts card and just get a massive NP bomb back. And then the double buster card still allows you to do buster brave chains with her NP, and while she does have skills that lean into her hybrid style of gameplay, I really just wish her NP was quick, because since we're kind of talking about her hits, her NP has 7 hits on it. If she was a quick alter ego AoE with everything else, I think she'd be like one of the most broken servants in the game. It's just the fact that she has a buster NP, when it seems like they maybe just last minute swapped her over to quick for some reason, because it just feels like it makes a bit more sense that she would have been a quick servant that also could do some really good damage with her buster cards, and not a buster servant that could also kind of leaned into doing things with her quick cards. But her quick cards do tend to be very, very good if you lead off with an arts card, right? You do an AQQ chain, especially God forbid you have some crits in there, you're going to be refunding a pretty big chunk of your NP back. So at the very least, her hits are doing the job of setting her up to be a really strong servant. It's just her skills are a little bit lackluster in some areas, but again, as I've been saying, she's been getting a lot of different buffs, so those are making her a lot more viable. But starting off with her first skill, this is the kind of bread and butter skill for Okita Alter. It's just giving her 30% quick and buster for 3 turns on a 6-turn cooldown. This is just to kind of help out the style of gameplay she's trying to do. The buster buff is going to contribute to any big buster face cards she wants to use, and it also contributes to her NP damage, while the quick cards are going to be getting buffed to give them a little bit of extra damage, and it's also going to raise the NP gain value of the quick cards, so they can double as kind of being mini arts cards in a way, right? Like, they can kind of function when they get crits and everything as also being a really good source of refunding her NP. And it's just a really solid skill to start her off with. As far as buffs are really concerned, I don't really know what they'd really want to go ahead and slap on here. If they want to give her like an Emiya style buff where she can change her NP to being quick, I think she just literally becomes one of the most broken servants in the game overnight. But we'll wait and see if that's what they do with her. Then we move over to her second skill, which this one actually recently did get buffed. It is giving her a 30% NP battery, which is really good because this actually gives her extended viability. So whoever decided to give her this 30% battery was apparently looking towards the future, because this 30% battery allows her to use her 20% append skill, which we don't have on the NA version of the game, but when we do get them, it basically allows your servants to have fake 50% batteries. And if you can get those quote-unquote fake 50% batteries, you can actually do Koyenskaya farming, although obviously Koyenskaya would prefer that you just have a natural 50% battery, because then you're going to start requiring things like a maximum broken scope, and then you're kind of just getting into the Scotty meta again, where it's like, oh man, like, I have Scotty, but I don't have anybody that can loop, and I don't have the scope, but still possible to do, which is something that's very, very important, that she does have that capacity. She gives herself star weight for a turn. It's pretty good, right? Because obviously you want to get crits on like the arts and the quick cards and everything, but The fact that it's only for 1 turn is a little bit of a downside, maybe hoping that later on they do buff this up to being like a 3-turn thing, because she's pretty consistently dropping stars. Like, she just has like really solid star gen, and her quick cards are really good, so it's not like she doesn't just have stars around her, right? Especially if you have like Merlin and other people around her. She can easily be hitting like 40 to 50 stars a turn with Merlin's NP popping off. So I don't know why they didn't make this 3 turns. It's just very, very odd. But still good for the turn you do have it up. And then finally they gave her 3 hits of a 20% attack buff. This is just going to help out her damage just a little bit more, because before this buff, her damage was a little poo-poo stinky, right? It wasn't very good. Although I kind of just wish they made it like 30% attack for 3 attacks. I don't know why that's 20%. It's like so low for a buff of this type. And if you guys don't know what I mean by so low, usually when they do like a restriction for making it like 3 attacks for X amount of turns, right? Usually it's a bit on the higher side. Like, we're talking like 30, 40, 50% type buffs. And when they're like in the 20 to 30% realm, though, usually those can kind of get an excuse for just being flat 3 turns. So I don't really know why they restricted her like that, but it does help out her NP damage and just her overall damage as well. So we do take it, but again, just a bit of a weird thing that they went ahead and did there. But then finally we go to her 3rd skill. When this one gets buffed, it's going to make things so much better, because for one, I know the thing that everybody loved to see is that they gave her an extra hit of evasion once this gets buffed. They give her some big beefy NP damage up to 30% for 3 turns, which is just absolutely lovely. And then they actually give her 2 stages of overcharge on her NP for 1 time. And the reason this is significant is that if we go down to her NP, the overcharge effect on her NP reduces the enemy's buster resistance by 30 to 50% for 3 turns. And this means at bare minimum, just by herself, she can already reach 40% buster down to the entire enemy party. And as you guys know, I've been saying that people like Morgan and Himiko really do help Buster Servants just reach higher levels of NP levels anyway. And so you can easily just have her be on like Overcharge 5 and just destroying the enemy party's Buster resistance, which in turn does help out her damage a lot. So at the end of the day, is she worth summoning for? I would say maybe not right now. If you really do need Okita Alter, again, we do have Castoria coming up in just a few months. She's pretty much definitely the target for the year. But if you do need Okita Alter, wait for her to get her next buff, because then by that time, hopefully, when that buff comes to the NA version of the game, the JP version of the game will have gotten like a new crazier buff for her. So then we could be like, okay, they finally did it. They gave her the ability to swap her NP types or something. Just something crazy along those lines. But I would highly advise waiting if you absolutely possibly can. Although I do understand a lot of people just really love Okita Alter. She's very popular for a lot of people. And so if she's like one of your favorite characters, she's your wifey character, I can understand you throwing like 1 or 2 multis at her. After she got this recent buff on her 2nd skill in the NA version of the game, she definitely does become a lot better and more usable. She's definitely not doing poo-poo stinky damage anymore. Now she can actually do some damage to the enemy, so that does help her out a lot. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace, late guys.